Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajacharya Astotasthara Shri His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajacharya Astotasthara Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki Ganga Mai ki Jamuna Mai ki Bhakti Devi ki, Tulasi Devi ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Sama Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, welcome everyone to our Sunday program or morning program. We've been studying the Nectar of Devotion, and last week we had Ranga Mataji who went through chapter 3, and today we're going to cover chapter 4, which is titled Devotional Service Surpasses All Liberation. Before we begin, let us offer our prayers to our acharyas for their blessings. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghudantam Vidam tam sajivam sadvaitam sadvadutam parijana sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Tidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamini Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. All together. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And we'll offer our prayers to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan before we begin the Nectar of Devotion, or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which was compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. Nana Shastra Bicharana Kanipuno Sandharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakaruna Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mantaliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So that is from the Sat Goswami Astakam. So today our topic is devotional service surpasses liberation. So in this chapter, Srila Prabhupada gave a very extensive research of this argument against liberation, and there were at least 20 verses that Srila Prabhupada quoted in this chapter, which I found was very very enlightening, and how it wasn't just coming from his opinion, but it was scriptural referenced. So I found that very important in this chapter for us to remember. Before I go into the contents of the chapter, I'd like to just bring it back to the foundation of Nectar of Devotion, and the essence of why we're studying this book. And that is found in the first verse of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and it's Anya Bilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anvitam Anukulyana Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. And the definition, the English translation is: when first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. Knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So this point of the devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So as Krishna desires is further explained in the Nectar of Devotion, and that's why sometimes when we're cooking for Krishna, we may cook something that may not be so that may not please the Lord, but if we don't know how can we correct? So this Nectar of Devotion is helping us to correct our devotional life, and so that we can make our progress to the final stage of bhakti, which is ultimately love for Krishna. There was another verse that I found that really related to this point, and this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verse 6, and says, the supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. So we see here we need to serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires and unmotivated and uninterrupted. So those are the 4 points that I'd like to highlight in our devotional practice. So as a summary of chapter 4, like I mentioned, Srila Prabhupada is giving evidence. So in chapter 3, Ranga Mataji would have spoken about the bhukti and mukti. So bhukti means material enjoyment, and mukti means become freed from material anxiety and to become one with the Lord. So this chapter is basically arguing against these 2 points, bhukti and mukti. So Srila Prabhupada further says that devotees of Krishna and Vrindavan reject the desire for all liberation, even personal liberation in Vaikuntha. And we'll see this coming forward later on in the chapter. So the 20 verses that Srila Prabhupada quotes, it comes from very different devotees that we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, like Prithu Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, Vritrasura, Lord Shiva, Prahlad Maharaj, the list goes on, and I really would, recommend you reading these verses, and we can also take a lot of example from these devotees. So basically, these verses give an insight into the mood of the devotee and how liberation is not the goal. So that would definitely be beneficial for all of us to read or reread if you have already. To take it back, I always try to break down something before I can study it. So I wanted to define the word liberation. So as per the Oxford Dictionary, the act of, so liberation is defined as the act or process of freeing a country or a person from the control of somebody else. So liberation means to be free, The other thing that popped into my head when I thought of liberation was Malati Prabhu, when, in the early days when they joined Krishna consciousness, she had come from a hippie background, and I remember in a class she mentioned that, when she saw the form of Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra in a thrift shop, I think she took Baladev, if I'm not mistaken, she took it upon herself to liberate the item, which, means to free from the shop. I don't want to say the steal, because in essence it was a very transcendental pastime. But yeah, this form of, or this word liberation means to take something out of, So for us, being in South Africa or in this material world, we're seeing so many tribulations, and one would think, I just want to be free from all of this, I just want to be free. Take me out of this country, or take me out. Sometimes we may pray to Krishna, please take me out of this material body, because it's so, there's so many pains and struggles that we go through. But actually, this is really not the case of our practice in Krishna consciousness. So so Srila Prabhupada further elaborates in this chapter of Nectar of Devotion. He says liberation means having completely given up all material comforts of life. Those who are impersonalists are satisfied by simply being liberated from material circumstances, but those who are devotees can automatically give up material life and also enjoy transcendental bliss of hearing and chanting the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna. So this point of, the devotees. So liberation is just a byproduct of our practice, but it's not the goal. So this chanting, this hearing and chanting of the Lord's names and pastimes, that is our goal. And then Srila Prabhupada, in this chapter, the 5 kinds of liberation are described, and the first one is sahajya, and that is one who wants to become Krishna, or wants to emerge into Krishna. Then there's salokya, which is to achieve the residence of Krishna. There's sashti, which is to have Krishna's opulence. There's sarupya, which is to possess a bodily feature similar to Krishna. There's samipya, and that is to gain personal association with Krishna. So out of these 5, sahajya is not accepted to the devotees because our goal is to not emerge into Krishna. So the other 4 are acceptable, but they are not desired by devotees. And this is also described by the Lord to Durvasa Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam 9:467. And then to further elaborate on the 2 types of liberated souls, so this whole definition of liberation that Srila Prabhupada gave. So in this, so this is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10, Canto 10, Chapter 232, and the 2 forms of liberated souls are: 1, a soul who is liberated by cultivation of knowledge. So those are the individuals who try to engage in dry speculation and simply cultivate knowledge without devotion. And because of their offenses, many of them do fall. And their goal is to merge into the existence of the Supreme. And with that, they don't maintain the individuality. So they aren't able to engage in personal service to Krishna, like, for example, the chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord. And that is also because they don't have an idea of what the form of the Lord is. So that is the whole Mayavadi conception. And then the second type of liberated soul is the soul liberated by devotional service. And this is when one is attracted to the transcendental qualities of Krishna, and that allows him to become more and more elevated. And it says here, unless one is already beyond liberation, one cannot relish the transcendental glories of the Lord, nor can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord. So, in essence, liberation by devotional service is a requirement to relish the transcendental glories and understand the form of the Lord. Now, when we hear this concept, in Bhagavad Gita, it is said that out of many millions of people, only one may try to understand what is spiritual knowledge. So those who are actually liberated by devotional service are extremely rare. And yeah, it's a very, for us to be seated here in the temple, and I also have to remind myself this, is a very rare opportunity for us to perfect our lives and not get caught up in the material, material world or material miseries. And for us to be here, it really is by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So that takes us to our next point, where if we want to, engage in devotional service, our first step is to approach a spiritual master. And we see this by Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when he was bewildered and, he really didn't know how to understand his position. He submissively submitted himself to Lord Krishna. And we also see Prahlad Maharaj. Recently in our Bhagavatam studies, we've we've all been doing like a presentation of the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, and it's really so wonderful to read his prayers. And the biggest sorry, I just want to find this one, this verse. Please excuse me. There's so many prayers here. But basically, Prahlad Maharaj, he attributes all his qualities, or his prayers, that he's from a low birth, but it's only thanks to Narad Muni that he is able to stand in front of the Lord and glorify him. So, and Srila Prabhupada also quotes this verse, and there we go. Okay, so Prahlad Maharaj says, "My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narad Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service?" So this is defeating the goal of liberation. So Prahlad Maharaj does not want liberation from Lord Nrsingadev, but he is also placing a lot of importance onto his spiritual master, which is Narad Muni. And why I really selected this verse was, when you look at Srila Prabhupada and his mood, he was in Vrindavan. He had reached perfection, living in Vrindavan, studying the Bhagavatam, chanting all his rounds of japa and engaging in such beautiful devotional service. But the one thing that really drove him, and that he needed to fulfill, was his spiritual master's instructions. And that was to go to the West to preach Krishna consciousness in English. And in Srila Prabhupada's poem, the Krishna Taba Punya, so Srila Prabhupada in the 6th stanza says, or 5th stanza, "If you bestow your power by serving the spiritual master, one attains the absolute truth, one's life becomes successful. If that success is obtained, then one becomes happy and gets your association due to good fortune." So the spiritual master is actually extremely important in our devotional life, because in order for us to, as much as liberation is that byproduct of devotional service, we need to know what's beyond that. So that's where the spiritual master comes in, where they give that instruction that becomes the devotee's life and soul. And I think that's the essence of devotional service, is following the spiritual master's instructions. And we see this in the conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami has submitted himself so humbly in front of Lord Chaitanya. He says, "Who am I? Why are the threefold miseries always giving me trouble? And finally tell me how I can be relieved from material entanglement. I don't know how to question you about advancement of spiritual life, but I beg that you kindly, mercifully let me know everything that I need to know." So here we see Sanatana Goswami's plea to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya's point to Sanatana Goswami is that his position as Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya says, "You have already received the benediction from Lord Krishna, and therefore you know everything, and you are free from all miseries of existence." And then Lord Chaitanya further elaborated that because you are a humble devotee, you are asking me to confirm what you already know. This is very nice. So as much as Sanatana Goswami is humbly asking, from Lord Chaitanya, we see the humility. Sanatana Goswami is already qualified, but the need to consult with the spiritual master is extremely important. And then Lord Chaitanya says, "You are a suitable person to protect the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, it is my duty to instruct you in the science of God, and I'll explain everything step by step." So then here, Lord Chaitanya describes the threefold mysteries of the material world: Adhyatmic, Adibautic, and Adidevic. So Adhyatmic is the mysteries caused by a mind and body. Adibautic is those caused by other living entities, and Adidevic is by the demigod, so like all natural disasters. So yes, and then Lord Chaitanya instructed Sanatana Goswami on how to achieve devotional service, but the first step was realizing that we are the spirit soul and not this body. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. So we'll go back to the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a verse from Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 26, and it says, "Those who actually desire liberation abandon the worship of demigods and without envy concentrate their minds in the worship of Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When such persons come in contact with a pure devotee, they engage in devotional service of Krishna and abandon the idea of liberation." So, this idea of liberation, for me personally, means although I'm not fully or haven't fully realized this topic, but it's only from my study of Srila Prabhupada's books that I can understand this idea of liberation. But for me, liberation in my personal life means that running away from certain things or wishing for calm. So there was a story that we heard recently about a sailor, the youngest sailor in the world who traveled. The youngest sailor who traveled the world, and in her story, she describes the good and the bad, and there was there's one part where she was caught up in this, and she was only 16, and she was caught up in a storm. And in this storm, and this is a sailing boat, it's not like a ship, or that it doesn't have much like equipment to really do this travel or exploration. But there's a part where she's like, why is this happening to me? And this is when the storm was about to damage her entire boat. And then after that, she had completely calm sea for 8 days straight. And in those 8 days, she said she had felt the worst because in order to sail, you need conditions like the wind. You need the wind to move. And with her having calm seas, she was actually going backwards. So in our devotional life, we may pray to Krishna for good times where things are just calm and everything goes well. But actually, it's when we are in our storm, and that is when we actually make our progress. And the prayer for liberation defeats the whole goal of what we are doing in our spiritual life. Our goal is to revive our forgotten relationship with Krishna. But if everything is hunky-dory and just calm, we may actually forget Krishna in those times. And in this story, which is based on a true event, this girl said she had felt the worst. She was depressed. She really was at her lowest. So when we're praying to Krishna, we should also look at Kunti Devi. She prays for these these tribulations, she doesn't want, when you look at her life, to have gone through so much that Kunti Devi has gone through, like going into exile, and just being completely rejected from society, or the kingdom, and it's just the way she prays for this tribulation. It really shows that actually that is where we find Krishna, is in our struggles. So I'd like to share a few other verses that Srila Prabhupada quotes in this chapter. So that was my understanding of liberation, but I'll just take it back to Srila Prabhupada's structure in the chapter. So the one prayer is by the wives of Kalya, the Naga Patnis, and the Naga Patnis prayed to the Lord by saying, "Dear Lord, the dust of your lotus feet is very wonderful. Any person who is fortunate enough to achieve this dust does not care for heavenly planets, lordship over all the planetary systems, the mystic perfections, or yoga, even liberation from material existence. In other words, anyone who adores the dust of your lotus feet does not care a fig for all other perfectional stages." So we see here that, even Kalya, who was, extremely offensive to the Lord, the wives are praying to Krishna, to give them the dust of the lotus feet, and Krishna, danced on the Kalya's head, which completely purified and liberated Kalya. But in this way, the wives are asking for this good fortune of having Krishna's lotus feet as their goal, and not liberation to other planets. And then when I saw this dust of your lotus feet, it reminded me of a pastime that we've heard a few times, but I'd love to share it because it's really wonderful. So there's Krishna in Dwaraka became sick, and he asked for, so his only cure would be that if someone gets the dust of my devotees' feet. So Narad Muni and his entourage, they approached everyone they could see, like the highest brahmanas. They approached different demigods. Please give me the dust of your feet. Krishna is suffering. And then they say, no. How can I give the dust of my feet? Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we know in Nectar of Devotion it says that one should not touch in Krishna's paraphernalia with one's feet. So how can we give in this case, these devotees are thinking, how can we give the dust of my lotus feet, my feet to Krishna? So here, Narad Muni keeps going, and then Krishna says, but Narad Muni then approaches the gopis, and when the gopis heard that Krishna is sick, they immediately, gave Narad Muni this dust, because their first goal was to make Krishna better. They said, take it immediately. They did not consider any, negative aspects of this, and they said, giving the dust of my feet to Krishna, even if I go to hell, never mind, I shall go to hell, it doesn't matter, let Krishna be cured. That is their first consideration. So having Krishna's having Krishna's wellness in this pastime is really the goal of the gopis. So, yeah, and then Srila Prabhupada further elaborates and says, this is the topmost devotee, prepared to do anything without any consideration. That is pure devotee. Anya bilasita sunyam. There should be no personal desire. That should be zero. Simply one should try to please Krishna. There's no other consideration, only to satisfy Krishna. That is pure bhakti. We also see in the very special pastimes of Mother Yashoda and Lord Damodar, when we sing the Damodar Astakam, there are two verses in that prayer that really highlight this argument against liberation. And it goes, O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is to have your childhood pastimes. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want you to know your feature of Paramatma. I simply wish that your pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart. So that is the goal of the devotee. To bring it further, the holy name of the Lord actually. So there was a verse that I found from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 8.249, and it says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then inquired, out of all liberated persons, who should be accepted as the greatest? And Ramananda Rai said, he who has love for Krishna has attained the topmost liberation. And this love for Krishna has been laid out to us by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And it really made me think of our initiation. When at the time we take initiation, all our karma is being defeated. But more than that, we are given the holy name by our spiritual master. And the holy name of the Lord is the process and the goal all in one. We need to chant to purify ourselves, but at the same time constantly chanting is the goal as well. So I found that a really beautiful understanding and point that this holy name of the Lord can bring the liberation, but more than that is the love of Krishna. And Haridas Thakur explains that liberation and freedom from the reactions of sinful life are only by byproducts of chanting the holy name of the Lord. If one chants the holy name of the Lord purely, he attains a platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Haridas Thakur gives us example, and he compares it to sunshine. So first, it says that when the sun begins to rise, it dissipates the darkness of night even before the sunshine is visible. So before a sunrise even takes place, the light of the dawn destroys the fear of the dangers of the night, such as disturbances by thieves, ghosts, and rakshasas. And when the sunshine actually appears, one engages in his duties. Similarly, before one chants the holy name, even before one's chanting of the holy name is pure, one is freed from all sinful reactions. And when he chants purely, he becomes a lover of Krishna. A devotee never accepts mukti, even if Krishna offers it. Mukti, freedom from all sinful reactions, is obtained even by namabhas, a glimpse of the light of the holy name before its full light is perfectly visible. And then just to further elaborate on the Nam-bhas stage. So the Nam-bhas is between that of Nam Aparad, or chanting of the holy name with offenses, and pure chanting. there are 3 stages in our chanting, and the first stage is one commits 10 kinds of offenses while chanting. The next stage is namabas, which is where the offenses was almost stopped, and one is coming to the platform of pure chanting. And in the third stage, one chants a Hare Krishna without offense. His dormant love for Krishna is then awakened. That is perfection. So to conclude, for me, what I would take from this is to really focus on the quality of my chanting, and to avoid these offenses that we recite every morning, and with that process we can come to the perfection of loving Krishna. So I'd like to please ask for forgiveness if I've said anything that wasn't entirely correct, and please offer me any suggestions on how to improve as well. I'd like to request some of our seniors. I know most of you are my seniors, but we have some teachers of Bhakti in our congregation here, so we'd like some comments or corrections. Thank you. Okay. Ranga Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Well thought out class. But you were a little nervous, so maybe you can get rid of your nervousness. Everyone here is family. So think like that. So some very nice points were made. And those verses that we were talking about, Prabhupada quoted, maybe you can quote 1 or 2 verses from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Prabhupada had quoted. So, to enliven us as well. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ranga Mataji. So this is one by Queen Kunti. My dear Krishna, you are so great that you are inconceivable even to the great stalwart scholars and Paramahamsas, fully liberated souls. So if such great sages, who are transcendental to all reactions of material existence, are unable to know you, then as far as we are concerned, belonging to the less intelligent women class, how is it possible for us to know your glories? How can we understand you? And then another one, Uddhava. So this is 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 34. My dear Uddhava, the devotees who have completely taken shelter of my service are so steadfast in devotional service that they have no other desire. Even if they are offered the 4 kinds of spiritual opulences, they will refuse to accept them. So what to speak of desiring anything within the material world? Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Sarv Damodar Prabhu? Any other devotees would like to say something on this point? Ganga Mata.
Thank you so much, Priya Kishori. I like the example you gave of the boat and the tribulations being like the storm, and how we actually grow more through those times. I was actually asking your spiritual master about the prayers of Queen Kunti and whether or not we should actually try to pray the way she prayed, and he said no. he said, no, we shouldn't artificially try to pray like her. We have enough problems. Because on the one hand, we want to pray like the great souls, but on the other hand, we can't artificially pray for such things. Thank you so much for a wonderful class.
Thank you. And do we have the right strength, spiritual strength to handle them as well? Thank you, Ganga Mata. That's a very good point. Anyone else would like to say something? Questions for our seniors that I may have not covered? Okay, so I think we can end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.